Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. You know that every time before we do a magic product review, we do a quick fiddle tune. And this fiddle tune, if you've been here for a while, you know I've been working on it, still not happy with it. And I think it mirrors a lot like magic tricks. It really takes time. Some of them take extra effort and practice till we get it where we want it. Anyway, bear with me as you sort of are on the journey with me. Here we go. Alright, I think as you can hear, there are still just a couple of notes in there that aren't in the right place or missing a note. And much like the magic that we work on, it just takes time. But I think in the end, it really pays off. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Fiddle and Johnny, and this is my Fiddle channel and magic product review. And today we have one that I've really been looking forward to sharing with you, and it is Menny Lindenfeld's Tempus. This is about being able to, with your mind, be able to control the second hand on a watch and stop time. Anyway, this is kind of a big release. It's going to be for some and definitely not for others. I think you're going to have questions. I'm going to take the time to answer those questions in the course of the review. Anyway, stick around and we'll get right into Tempus. All right, let's get right into Tempus. Now, I'll start off with first, what is Tempus? Tempus is by Menny Lindenfeld. It is released through Murphy's Magic and is part of their Black Label line, which basically says this is really a professional level, high quality release, and that's sort of how it's being marketed. And let's just sort of like, what is the effect? The effect is the ability at will to stop a watch or to stop a clock. Now the main routines are around wristwatches, but it also does have wall clocks that you can stop and start at will the clock. So basically that is demonstrated through watching the second hand or the seconds hand, having it stop and start. That's what you're going to learn how to do on this release. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about my own experience with doing sort of watch stopping. This is something I've done for, I don't know, years, 15, 20 years probably, and something I used to perform. I don't think I ever bought a tutorial on it. I don't even remember where I learned sort of the main method to do it, but wherever it was, without a tutorial, I came up with my my own routine for stopping the second hand on a watch. Loved doing it. Felt like my version was adequate, not great, but every time I performed it, you know, no heat on my hands or guessing in terms of what the method is. So anyway, did it for years, liked it, and then just sort of stopped for no particular reason. Well, some of the reason is my setup. I didn't love the way my setup for it was okay, but I didn't like it, or didn't love it, I should say. It did the job, but was inefficient. Anyway, you don't care about that stuff. So when this release came out, I immediately thought, I'm definitely interested. I want to actually do a tutorial from somebody who has been doing it. Maybe I could pick something up. And I think for magicians who have been out there for a long time, there's certain things I want you to know. Is there anything new and groundbreaking here from a method point of view? And the answer to that is no. If you've been around for magic any length of time and you know how to do the ability to stop the second hand on a watch, there's basically two methods. I only know of two methods without going into some electronics or other things. Both of those methods are taught on this. What I would say, however, is that there are nuance handling, and there are some things that Menny has done differently. And here's, this is a difficult thing to talk about because if you don't know how it's done, I don't want to give away the method. But for those of you who know what the method is, what is a little bit more unique here is that a method that is typically used uses something that's really strong, super powerful. However, Menny found that a little bit of a problem and decided he would use something that just wasn't as strong, that didn't have the strength of what maybe many of us have used. And I certainly used something really strong historically because it gave me a guarantee that I would be able to stop the second hand. And he has taken the approach to use something that is not very strong and yet has found a way to do it really, really effectively. I think that's going to be one of the main takeaways with this, is that what's unique about it is that while it uses a classic technique, he's using something that's not as strong. But then I think what you're really walking away with here is technique. So he has technique that I think really looks beautiful and elevates the routine to a way that really truly looks magical. And I think that's one of the things that are important to know. This is not going to be for everybody, but I think it'll be for some folks. I think if you have one of the main methods, you've been using it for a long time, and it works for you, you're probably fine. If you picked this up, could you get some new technique? 100%. I felt like my technique definitely, I just got techniques that I hadn't even thought about. And Menny has taken about the last 20 years of doing this effect and coming up with multiple ways to do it. And it shows in his tutorial that all the kinks have been long worked out, and technique has really taken center stage to make it look as magical as possible, and that it's really truly done with his mind. All right, so I think that's it. And we're really talking about an effect that's about telekinesis and having the power to stop something. Let's talk about what do you get here. So, and this is so challenging because I just want to say, look, here's what you get. Duh, you know what you're going to get. I think I've already said there's two methods. If you know those methods, this is just taking those methods and giving you techniques that are really great. All right, so you're going to get a tin. It looks just like this, and it comes in this packaging here. And in this tin, there's nothing that I can show you because the tin is nothing special. It looks like basically an Altoids tin. But in this tin, you're going to get everything you need to be able to perform the effect. And I don't want to tell you what it is because it just gives it away. But yes, it's that method that you've all been using. There is, however, a gimmick that he has provided that is one that he has created. It is a plastic gimmick that is durable, should last literally a lifetime, and is unique. I found at first that I actually thought I'm not going to like the gimmick, but then I actually found, I actually like the gimmick. And intellectually I say, I don't want to have to ring in and ring out a gimmick on this, because that's just a little bit more work, and then I got to ditch it and got to make sure I'm palming okay and all that sort of stuff. Easy to palm, easy to ditch. But I think it'll come down to personal preference whether you like the gimmick or not. 90%, maybe even 95% of this video or tutorial that you get doesn't use the gimmick. It's sort of focusing on the techniques that he has developed. All right, but you're gonna get this tin here. It's gonna come with everything you need to get yourself set up and perform. Let's see. The things that are in there, I'll say just to repeat it, are not as strong as maybe earlier versions that you've had. And when I mean strong, I don't mean that the performance and how it looks, the product itself or the mechanism is not as strong as you might have used in the past. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's talk a little bit here about what you really get. What you're really getting here is a masterclass tutorial. That's my opinion here. You're not getting a new method that has never happened before and it's finally being revealed. You're getting a masterclass in how to stop a watch. That's what you're getting here. And in that process, you're going to get 4 episodes. And those 4 episodes come out to 4 hours and 51 minutes of tutorial. Or at least maybe that's what the ad copy might be, or if you look just straight at the tutorials and their length. And let me talk about the tutorials. They are streaming and downloadable, so you can download them in full 1040, high quality, really nice. There is a thing with the tutorials though, in reality, you're getting about 4 hours and 3 minutes of actual tutorial. The other 43 minutes or so is fluff, in my opinion. But who am I to quibble if you're getting 4 hours and 3 minutes of tutorial? It really is genuinely a masterclass. And I would say I hate the use of the term masterclass because I think it's thrown around too loosely. I don't think it's accurate in a lot of situations. But in this situation, when I first started off, I went, oh, come on, we're using old methods that we've always done. This is nothing new. And I found like in the first hour and a half of watching it, while pleasantly pleased, I felt maybe a little bit ripped off. Like, okay, I'm not really, is this really a masterclass? By the time I was done, actually by the time I probably hit hour 2, I went, okay, yeah, no, this is really moving in the direction of a masterclass. And by the time I'm done, I felt like he had covered every inch of ground that you could possibly cover on how to stop a watch, essentially. So you're paying for a masterclass here. All right. From the instructional point of view, I think the instructions are fantastic. They really are great. It is a true masterclass, as I had said, and it will cover every single aspect that there is to stopping watches. Every bit you can possibly think of. And the tutorial is done with most of it's done with a really tight shot on the hands and the watch, really tight, so that you can really see the nuance of movement, or maybe the lack of nuance of movement, and with small movements, what you can get that to do. It's really nice from that really close, tight shot on there. Now, by the same token, it is so tight and so close, there are moments when he does live performances, and the live performances really focus in on just the hands, the watch, and the spectator hands. You never see the face of the spectator. You just see a very tight shot of what's happening in the spectator's hands when doing it, which I thought was, and I would have liked to have seen like face and body motion and all that sort of stuff. But that's what you're getting there on the tutorial. So the tight shots are great, but at times when I saw the performances, I sort of wanted a wider shot. And that's quibbling, of course, but it's how I felt when I watched it. Let's see, I'd also, the instructions cover so much ground that it's difficult in this review to cover everything. Since there's 4 hours of material in there, there's just no way I can possibly cover every single thing that's in there. What I would say is if you go to the ad copy and you see what's in the ad copy, 99% of the ad copy is accurate. A little later I'll deal with that 1%. But what you're seeing in the teaser and the video is all inside this product, and in the tutorial you'll see it. You'll see all of the nuance of it. The ad copy of itself also addresses all the different things that you will learn in this, and it doesn't fudge on it in terms of you really get detail on this. All right, so if you watch the teaser, let's see, for instance, it's going to deal with the different kinds of watches that are out there, and what is the best watch to use when doing this, and then secondly, how to handle the different kinds of straps that are out there. There are silicone straps out there, there are metal straps out there, there are leather straps. So it deals with every different possible kind of strap that exists, different kinds of watches that exist, and different kinds of watch faces. He'll address what is the best to choose when you're choosing one from an audience member, because these are like 99% of the time done with borrowed watches. And so you'll get that level of detail in there. He's going to talk also about quartz watches versus mechanical watches. I'll talk about that a little bit later. He talks about doing virtual performances versus in-person performances, and sort of if you're going to do a virtual performance, what are the things to make it better in the virtual performance. He's going to do that whole wall clock thing that you see in the teaser, that he controls the wall clock from a distance. Going to talk about that, and we'll address sort of the two classic methods that are used, and he will go over his technique with the two classic ways of stopping watches, essentially. I think one of the takeaways on the tutorial is, damn, he just covers every ounce of ground there possibly is. I'd also say, like, one of the negative things is that there are two methods here. And once you understand the methods, then Menny is basically going over his techniques, and he has quite a few, I'm going to say multiple handlings of his technique, which is oftentimes, if you're at a table, here's how you would apply this technique. If you're standing up, here's how you would apply this technique. If you're borrowing a watch and the watch strap is really bent, here's how you make sure that the technique works. So it's one of those things, like, once you get his technique, you could probably work out like all of the different scenarios that could occur and sort of figure them out, use some common sense. But with that said, it was still nice to see all the different ones, and at times I felt like, okay, I get it. Okay, I understand. Do I really need to watch this? And started to get a little bit bored in the tutorial. But it's hard to fault somebody, because I might do a tutorial next week that's 20 minutes in length and saying, they called this a masterclass and they did not give nuance and detail, and I'd be pissy about that. And now when I have all of that, I don't want to be too pissy about that, because I'd rather have greater detail than too little detail. I do want to highlight here, and this is nitpicking a little bit, but I think it's important for you to know. There are 4 episodes, and each episode deals with sort of a different aspect, which I'll talk about here probably in a little while. The first 4 minutes of every single one of the episodes is basically the teaser. So you're seeing the teaser every single time you click on, you get through episode 1, now you click on, you go to episode 2, and the first 4 minutes are going to be the teaser that we've already seen if you've purchased the product. Then you get to episode 3 and you click on that, the first 4 minutes are the exact same teaser as the first 2. And the same with episode 4. I thought after maybe the first episode with the teaser, we didn't need to see it anymore. Also, at the end of every single one of these episodes, there is 8 minutes of essentially commercial. So, and this is probably great marketing. So basically at the end of each one of the episodes, you get Menny basically doing, showing teasers for his other products. Now I have several of Menny's products, and I've been happy with every single one of them, to be honest. But I did feel like, oh, I'm watching a tutorial and now it closes with an ad, which I didn't really like. I get it. If I was Menny, I'd probably tack on an ad at the end too. But with that said, you're still, once you take out all of the ads and all of the teasers, I still counted over 4 hours of actual tutorial that you're going to get. All right, I usually talk about how is the gimmick. The only thing I'll talk about, like, the stuff that you get is the same stuff we've always used, but maybe not as strong, but good. He does have a gimmick. The gimmick that is included that's unique to him will last a lifetime, does its job, but you don't have to use the gimmick if you don't want to use the gimmick. He actually calls it a bonus that he has thrown in, and I sort of think of it as that way too. It's a bonus. I like it. I love the concept. I don't know if I'll use it a lot or not, but I do like it as a concept. So I'm sure there'll be some out there going like, Fiddle and Johnny, what are you talking about? That was the best part of it, is the gimmick. And I've done the old method, but this gimmick really, brought it to new levels for me. So I'm sure that'll probably be some people's experience. All right, so let's address any questions that a reasonable magician would have. So I went out there and I went to the forums and looked for what the questions are, so I'm going to address those questions that I found in the forums. So the first question is, what about expensive watches? Will I ruin my Spectator's watch? Awesome question, and my very first question. And the answer is, now Lenny's going to hate, Menny is going to hate this. And the answer is, maybe. And I know that's probably, I guess the truth answer is, I cannot say with 100% confidence that you couldn't ruin or damage somebody's watch. With that said, Menny spends a significant amount of time talking about different kinds of watches. It is clear he has taken the time to research it. He pulls off the backs of watches. He shows you what the mechanics of the backs of the watches are, shows why you should be using a very specific type of watch versus others. And he does spend a little bit of time talking about how he chooses a Spectator's watch. Because you want to make sure that you pick a Spectator's watch that will not be damaged with the use of sort of the classic technique. If I were to answer the question, what about expensive watches? Will I ruin a Spectator's watch? Me personally, I will never borrow a watch that looks really, really expensive out of fear of damaging it. If it's $2,000+ there's no way I can replace it. Or don't want to replace it, I should say, or yeah, don't want to replace it. So I personally will probably look for the cheapest watch I can find. That takes some practice. What he does talk about in terms of how you ensure, I feel confident with the type of watch that you should pick in order to do these with minimal risk. So I hope that answers sort of the question. I guess the takeaway is most watches you're going to really, I shouldn't say most watches, after you watch the tutorial you'll know which watch to pick that will minimize the chances of creating any problems whatsoever. And my personal disclaimer is you never really fully know, and sometimes stuff happens. So it is something to consider if you really want to do this effect, your level of comfort with picking somebody from the audience and their watch and making sure that you don't damage it. All right. Next question is, he does use the term, he does say that the method that he uses specifically, and I'll just say it with like quartz watches, is totally safe. So that's a style of watch that's going to be safer to use. If it's a mechanical watch, best not to take a chance and do this effect with a mechanical watch. On some newer mechanical watches, it may not work at all. So something to keep in mind. And if you're wondering, like, how do I tell the difference between a mechanical watch versus a quartz watch, you will, in the tutorial, learn those differences and how to notice just by looking at them. Question, must the gimmick be touching the watch? And this is one of those things when you watch the teaser, you go, well, if there was a load there, I never saw it. And then his hands are completely clean. But the quick answer is yes, unless you're doing the other method that doesn't require some strength. Okay. Other than that is, does this gimmick touch the watch or the things that come in this tin? The answer is yes, they must touch the watch. Another question is, it says, can you hand out the watch or do it in your spectator's hands? Now this is the 1% area or 5% area on the ad copy that I have a slight issue with. It does teach you in the tutorial how to do it in the spectator's hands. And I think this is an intermediate level piece. If you decide to do it in a spectator's hand, it really is going to be best if it's done with somebody who is at least an intermediate level. So can it be done? Yes. Does he teach it? Yes. Do I think it's possible? Yes. There's variations on it. Some I think are easier or less likely to get caught than others. So I hope that's helpful if you're considering this, but that would really only apply if you want to do it in your spectator's hands. There's so many other versions of doing it on the table, doing it standing up, etc., that you don't have to do it in a spectator's hands. All right, can I really do this and step away from the watch is another question. And the answer is yes. You step as far away from the watch as you want, not a problem. And you can do it with ease and confidence. Next question, what am I really paying for if this is the tried and true technique? If you're using the tried and true technique, what you're really getting here is the masterclass with the techniques that Menny has come up with, along with the extra gimmick as a bonus. That's really what you're getting here. Are there electronics involved with this? Nope, zero, no electronics necessary. Is this a brand new method? Nope, not a brand new method. All right, let's talk about the skill level. I think I touched it on earlier. It is intermediate skill level. I think for a beginner, if you wanted to pick this up, you would be getting a great education, and I think you could start on your way to being able to do this. It just will require practice. I was trying to put together before this a quick demo of it, and I realized that even I just need to do a little bit more practice before I felt comfortable putting it on camera. I did go out, performed it using the techniques in a gig I had earlier this week, and not a problem, went flawless, felt really good. My Spectator, was dumbfounded. But when I start taping it for the camera, the camera just sees everything, and it makes me realize I need to work a little bit more on my choreography. So I may or may not, or may have, put at the beginning or at the end, a demo of this. So, but all right, that's it for the demo. Let's see. Let's talk real quickly about the pros. I've said it. It's a masterclass on all the subtleties of watch stopping. You get a performer who's been performing this for 20 years, and it shows in this tutorial and all the different ways in which you can do it. I think when this effect is performed well, it's a super strong effect. It will look like you really have telekinesis, and you're going to get everything you need in this little tin and in the tutorial. All right, some of the cons here. I think that anytime you do a watch stop with the primary method, there is some risk that, I guess what I'm trying to say, since you might know what the method is, there's always some risk that you might harm somebody's watch. Something for you to consider. He, of course, as I said earlier, goes through the things that I think will reduce that risk. All right. This tutorial is really long. So if you purchase it, getting through it in one sitting, unless you've got 4 hours and you're willing to sit through 4 straight hours, it's long. And I know that shouldn't be a con, but it's long. Sometimes I felt like, okay, I get the technique, and now I get all the different ways in which the technique is applied. And at times I felt like, cut out maybe an hour. But by the same token, it's all good, and shouldn't really be complaining about it. The other thing I would say in terms of my cons, I really wanted to see live performances in the field rather than in the studio with the spectator and then only tight on their hands. All right, who's going to like this? Mentalist. This is in their wheelhouse. And I think this is a sort of routine that can be done close up. It can be done in a walk around. It can be done on parlor and stage, and it gives versions and variations for all of those different types of scenarios, also for the virtual world as well. Now, let me add one thing. He did do the ones where he stops the clocks on the wall. In my opinion, you really have to have the perfect set of conditions in order to do those. They look awesome. I think if I were to perform those, I would probably only perform those in a virtual setting, because I know that I could control all the sets of conditions. Or if I was performing for an audience where I had control of the room in advance of the performance. So things to consider, but this is for a mentalist. What does it cost? In the United States, it is $55. And let's face it, for the couple of little things that you get in here, this is not $55 worth in here. This is a couple of bucks, all right, in there. Essential, you must have them, but that's what you're going to get in there. The cost really is in the tutorial, in the 4 hours of tutorial. And I think you have to sort of decide if you want a master class on everything technique-wise with watch stopping, and is $55 the right cost for you. So I can say that for me, I definitely learned some techniques that I'll just use. I just will, and you know, it makes me want to again perform this style of effect again. So anyway, that's my take on it. I hope that was helpful. I hope it answered all the questions that you may have had. If you have questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them without revealing method. And I hope that this review was helpful for you. I know it was a release that I was excited about, and halfway through I felt, and then as I got through the end, I really liked it and have actually used the technique in actual performance. So obviously I like it well enough that I've actually used it in a real gig. All right, I hope that's all helpful. Make sure you leave a comment, hit that like button. I know all of us on YouTube say hit that like button. If you really could take a moment to hit the like button, I really would appreciate it. Helps with the algorithm so that as I try to build the channel, that it gets recommended to other folks who are watching similar videos like this. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And thank you to everyone who currently subscribes. I don't think you have any idea how much I really appreciate it. All right, that's it for me. I'm Fiddlin' Johnny, and remember to keep fiddling around with your magic. I'll see you all next time.